Welcome to wait a minute now. Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. It's your old pal Jake. And the other day, somebody pointed out that I have an excuse to wear an eye patch, one of the coolest garments there is. So I'm doing it. Also, so I don't scratch my eye anymore. Thank you for joining me. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, I got to get fancy. I got to get especially fancy because I don't know if you heard, but Benjamin Dixon is going to be on Left Past 10 this week. Man, oh man. That's a big get. I can brag about it because I didn't do it. Our good pal Matt, being the mensch that he is, managed to land that interview. It's just not the same without a tri-corner hat, says the anti-corporatist. Do you have a tri-corner hat? Obviously, yes. And maybe a full Captain Jack outfit. Look, I'm going more for a person who's trying to get Bond. You know, I'm going for one of those. Oh, yes. In the comment section, gang is talking about homeschooling and also having kids with autism. Interesting conversation. But I'm still in vain mode, so I'm a fan of the of Pirate Jake. Eyeball cone of shame. Yeah, the original thing I wanted to do as a gag was to get one of those plastic collars that they have dogs wear and just sort of wear it and occasionally paw at it. Cat and Jake. I'll take it. I'll take it. So look, here's what I'm hoping happens. First of all, let's all acknowledge publicly and loudly, anti-corporatist called the shot and knocked it out of the park. Anti-corporatist said, if you want to get right-wingers, you don't have to do this, that, or the other thing. You just have to stream vertically. Well, when I was drinking in a hotel on Saturday, I took a whack at it. Why not? Dude, you were right. Works. And then he pointed out, oh, I still want to scratch so bad though. And then he pointed out that the Eager Beaver Boys were trying this as well. Or rather, they streamed vertically as well. I don't know if they intended to get a bunch of right wingers, but they did. It works. So look, now when I'm trying specifically to get right wingers to come talk to us, which I think has to happen, I think that's an obligation we have, is to try to settle this information divide in some way. We don't have to agree on what to do about the facts, but the facts is the facts, and we got to agree on what they are. I'm gonna try vertical streams for that. Now, today, I'm hoping we get one specific right winger. Today, now that I have my studio back in the glorious void, I'm hoping Mr. Mod shows up. I invited him to come on. Who is Mr. Mod? Some guy. Just some guy that was willing to talk about this stuff. Wasn't, in my opinion, operating on a stable ground of facts. Didn't have a picture of politics that stayed the same from argument to argument. I want to talk about that with him. I also want to talk about a whole bunch of other stuff. So if you guys see Mr. Mod, let him know that hey, I'm so glad. First of all, say hi. Say I'm glad you're here. So you don't have to say you're glad if you're not, but say that I'm glad, because that's facts. And let me know like crazy in the comments. At me, do the at what you can do. And let me know, because I will then drop the link and I will make good on a promise made over sacred Jack Daniels that we will have a more detailed conversation face to half of my face. And hopefully we'll make a little more progress. We're doing pretty good so far. And I want to commend you all before we get into our normal lefty political breakdown here. I want to commend you all for your behavior as we have had people visiting us here in reality. There's been a lot of folks of questionable beliefs and questionable motives showing up. And it's been difficult, but by God, you guys have been wonderful diplomats. So thank you. Ooh. Oh my gosh, Pinkerbell, he said he subscribed, but I couldn't tell if he was being sarcastic. I hope so. I hope so. Because I'm very much interested in working with these people. Professional pirate is an interesting vibe. You need a swashbuckler outfit. First of all, let's be absolutely clear. I have multiple swashbuckler outfits. I am a dork with no kids. That means I have costume budgets. I chose to go out and purchase an eye patch because that's the kind of I do. Of course I have a swashbuckler outfit, but we're here to talk serious business, and so I feel like it's best if I look like I'm trying to kill Bond. There's a spray. Really just need a badass sword. Again, adult nerd. Multiple. I have multiple sabers. What spray? I have to use a kiddie pool for his bath because he hates the shower tub. I've never bathed at your house. What are you talking about? I think it's the sound because he loves pools and water tables. Oh, your kid. I do. Look, I enjoy the tub. But if I could do a kiddie pool for the bath, I 100% would, because it's so nice. I like to stretch. I like to flop around in the water. I like to kind of swim, but not really. Can't have the sword, though, my kids who have a mutiny. Fair enough. Mental head smack. Well, now I want to talk about the costumes. Y'all, you've seen me dress like a full-on knight. A Knigget. Right here on stream. All right. There will be many more costumes. All right, one more from the anti-corporatist. Costumes are cool. I paid down most of my crap, but I wish I had them for more costumes. I still have my Mad Hatter outfit somewhere, though. That's a good one to have. That's a good one. All right, gang. Oh, I almost wish I could just play some of the David Feldman from this morning. Just dry watch it. I haven't seen it yet. Instead, I'm going to play some Feldman from before. Stand by.
Trump to drive.
I'm going to do a little more sober discussion of RFK Jr. Let me do something so that editing Jake has a fair opportunity to cut this. Here I am making a ruckus. And you can see, start cutting now. Okay. I want to talk a little more about RFK. It did really bum me out that he endorsed Trump. Now, if you guys would have said, guys, when RFK drops out, he's probably going to endorse Trump, I would have said, well, duh. I would have been a jerk about it. And yet it happened, and it still caught my feelings off guard a little bit. It still kind of hurt, man. Because I know what the Kennedys are for a lot of Americans. I never got to experience the Kennedys in their prime. But the Kennedys were a family of decent folks. That's the best I can pitch it. If you're not an American or you're not of that era, they were a family of people trying to make the world better and having some success at it. My God. So to see RFK Jr. Devote himself, well, it goes further. The Kennedys were that, and RFK Jr. earlier in his career appeared to be that as well. And I guess the thing that's so sad about it to me is that he abandoned it. I don't think you can look at his behavior and say this was a natural political turn that he made. He was an environmental lawyer. And if you fast forward through 20 years of life to now, he became somebody who endorsed someone who doesn't believe global warming is real. He was once doing a radio show with Sam Cedar. And now he's endorsing someone who's literally attempting a fascist takeover of the United States after his failed coup. Need any further evidence that we are in a dark timeline? You've got mustachioed, eye-patched Jake telling you a Kennedy just endorsed a fascist. It ain't great. So, it's just a sign of a certain kind of lefty dying out that I think bums me out. There were people fighting the good fight for damn near a century in the U.S., passing of the baton from one to another, and it just sucks to see RFK Jr. behave this way. Let's listen to my beloved, my treasured, my angel, David Feldman. I adore this man. I would dare say I irrationally adore this man, to the point where I even though his politics may not be exactly where I want them at all times, I'll still default to just liking whatever he's doing, because I think he is truly in his heart a good person. Here he is, talking Kennedys.
But later, while speaking in Las Vegas, Trump said, I'm only considering a cabinet position for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I haven't decided yet. So it didn't even take 3 hours for Trump to totally screw over Bobby Kennedy Jr. Kennedy later joined Trump on stage at a rally in Glendale, Arizona. Bobby briefly took the stage and asked the crowd, don't you want to vote for Donald Trump? Don't you want to get the chemicals out of our food? That's what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said to a crowd of Trump supporters. Don't you want the chemicals out of your food? Because, yeah, if there's one overwhelming characteristic.
Feldman is a mensch, and I'm so glad I'm not the only person that uses that word. I love that word. Apparently it means like guy. Like he's a guy. He's a fella. It's just such a, the most Canadian sounding, not Canadian word I've ever heard.
Of a Trump supporter, it's concern for what they jam down their mouths. Trump then promised the crowd that when elected, he will create a presidential commission looking into presidential assassinations and will release all the documents relating to the killing of Bobby's uncle, President Kennedy, which came as a total surprise to most of the people in the audience who have already been convinced President Kennedy and his son are still alive, waiting on orders from Donald Trump to drive the pedophiles from our government. They really do believe this. Kennedy, in announcing his withdrawal, asked that his name be removed from the ballots in 10.
Yes, Tinkerbell. I think Trump promised him a position of national prominence, basically. I'm not even sure if that's legal, but I'm not going to look into it simply because it's been accepted. I know this is gonna. It's accepted practice, but it doesn't make it right. Anti-corporatist has a worm coming out of my head, not a brain. Sorry, there's a cop pulling someone over right in front of me. Oh, yeah, I got on my way to New York. Oh God, on my way to New York, I got a speeding ticket. Damn it! I just thought I'd complain about that a little bit. All right, what did this 10 states thing is kind of important because it speaks to, in my opinion, Kennedy's delusion. He says, I'm not ending my campaign. I'm merely suspending it and withdrawing in certain key states.
10 key battleground states, especially Pennsylvania, because he said he doesn't want to be a spoiler. Kennedy then appealed to Trump supporters by calling America's system for electing presidents dishonest. Politico reports this morning that a breakdown of Robert Kennedy's campaign financials revealed that donors who gave to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. this year were more likely to also donate to Donald Trump than Joe Biden. He was always a Trump plant. As Kennedy sinks in the polls, his impact on the election was diminishing. And it is generally believed his endorsement to Trump will have at best a modest impact come November. After Bobby endorsed Trump, 5 of Bobby's brothers and sisters condemned the move, issuing an official statement that read, quote, "We want an America filled with hope and bound together by a shared vision of a brighter future, a future defined by individual freedom, economic promise, and national pride. We believe in Harris and Walls. Our brother Bobby's decision to endorse Donald Trump today is a betrayal of the values that our father and our family hold most dear. It is a sad ending to a sad story," unquote. That is the official statement from Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s family. Untreated mental illness. That's the tableau you're looking at right now. Donald Trump shaking hands with Bobby Kennedy Jr., untreated mental illness. This is the mop-up for August 20.
No longer. That was the mop-up for August 24. So yeah, it just the main takeaway is that RFK Jr. is seeking power now for power's sake. He's not interested in the well-being of you or me. He's not trying to accomplish anything in particular politically. Why would you change your politics that much? You suddenly believe entirely different things about how the world functions? No, he's making deals to try to become, who knows, secretary of this or that. He tried to make a deal with, apparently, according to the rumor mill, both campaigns. Wicked Foxy Dragon pointing out he went to Trump after Kamala refused to even call him back, as well she should. He doesn't believe in anything. And there are folks who just see that his name is Kennedy and go, oh, good. God, we've needed one for a while. And they think what he is some kind of a JFK or an RFK, but he's not. He's an RFK Jr., and it turns out that's just another thief. We have plenty of those already. Oh, fixing the typo. An actual cloud. By the way, that nomination fight, 1980, was pretty darn interesting and event-filled. Ted Kennedy was trying to push Carter in a much more progressive direction. Yeah, once upon a time. Jake looking like Dan Crenshaw. Okay. You know, I was going to let it go. But now I can't. Hold up. I'll have you know, this is actually what I look like. I'm going. This joke is not funny enough for this build up. There. That in my head is what I believe I look like, and that's the delusion I choose to live in. Hey, if you're living in a delusion and you're a right winger, first of all, I'm sorry that I just took that easy little gig there. But second, do consider calling into the show. Mr. Mod in particular, if you're out there, we were having a good, a productive conversation, I felt. I'm really interested in you telling me why I'm wrong. Because you've told me that you're voting for Trump. And, you know, if you're even considering that, you must have totally different information than what I have. I was speaking to a union representative over the weekend, and they're tentatively for Kamala Harris, but only because they have they had the vaguest sense of what's happening politically. Now, it wasn't their business to know this or that political thing. They represent a union that you're not going to hear a lot about, and I'm not trying to drag into this conversation, but they didn't really have an understanding of the nuance of the details of what's going on with Trump, with Harris, with Biden. Mr. Mott, I believe that's you as well. I don't think you really know the facts of what these people do. And I want the opportunity to tell them to you. But here's the thing. It's possible. I'm not discounting this. It's possible that I am wrong. For example, it's possible that this thing that apparently many million Americans believe is true. Maybe the election was stolen from Trump in 2020. If that's so, I gotta know, because then it'll turn out that I've been supporting the wrong party. Don't let me live in ignorance like that. Don't let me be a dupe. Don't let me be a victim. I can't even keep track of both my eyes. You think I can unwind a detailed political conspiracy? No, I need you to tell me. Explain to me how I'm wrong. What did I miss? Right-wingers, one of us is wrong. Either you or me, and there's no shame in having been lied to. That is what we call, on this insufferable hippie left, that's what we call victim blaming. You don't victim blame. Even though I victim blamed plenty. It's wrong, and I acknowledge that. There's no shame in having been lied to. There's only shame in going on willfully living in ignorance. Now, if you think that's me, you got to come save me. If you're right, and you think I'm right, you have a moral obligation to help someone who's asking for help. And look, I don't think you're right. I think when we have this conversation, it will turn out that the facts support me and not you. It doesn't mean I'm not sincerely asking. I am sincerely asking. I genuinely want to see what has convinced you, and I am willing to consider it. I am willing to look at the information in a earnest way. And I hope you are as well. In fact, I ask you to be. Look at the information we're both making decisions based off of. Right now, I'm asking for just one guest, and I don't even think they're here. They would have had to have actually subscribed to the channel and turn on notifications in order to see that this stream went live. And even then, it really is still up to the algorithm. They sometimes tell you. So maybe we won't hear from them. That's not the end of the world. It's okay. It's important enough to me that I'm willing to talk to one person specifically, one at a time, do an entire stream, put their name in the stream, and stay up here for over an hour on the chance that they might call in. Let me know if you see Mr. Mod in the chat. I want to talk to him. Real men wear 2 eye patches. You burn in hell. Sir, how? I didn't mean that. I'm being facetious. I shouldn't have blasphemed, though. Look, if I wore 2 eye patches, I wouldn't be able to see this. Excellence. And a diaper. Well, yeah, that I've got. And carry sperm samples. Sure. I threw out my jizz shot. The party favor that I bought. And dear maxi pads on their ears. We're a normal bunch in Macland. I didn't know the eye was that bad. What happened? Look, this is coming from somebody that has a built-in excuse for why I could have a swollen eyelid. I could just blame it on the athletics that I coach to make some extra scratch. But the whole point of this thing is to be truthful. I had an eyelash under my eyeball. I tried to fish it out, but I also had a hangnail. And those elements kind of came together in such a way that I injured my eyelid quite badly. Right on the inside, on the eyelid meat. It's getting better, but I just need to stop messing with it, which I refuse to do because I am a child. One more on the, oh God. One more on the eye patch, unless you wore both eye patch over the same eye. Now that's intriguing. And then that way you just made it harder for you to itch, and also the straps would be kind of weird. It would look, it'd look like an X. That'd be rad as hell. I'll consider it. That's like throwing money away if you throw jizz away. Apparently, I've thrown away billions of dollars since about the age of 14. Hi, I'm a professional political streamer. Oh, Lordy Lou. Okay, gang. Got another one for you. I'm sorry. When I went to pull up the video, I saw Matt's upcoming stream for Benjamin Dixon. My God, Benjamin Dixon, and I got little nervous, a little happy, nervous energy. Got something from The Hill. Well, I thought I had something from The Hill. Okay. Trump is looking like he might chicken out of a debate with Kamala Harris. Now, damn it, debate with Kamala Harris. Now, that is not terribly surprising. He is really only willing to do an act of being brave when he's surrounded by his comfort zone folks. You know, he's only really willing to debate somebody if he's surrounded by propagandists for himself, or if he's forced into it. Here is Trump prepping us for cowardice.
I think ABC is a disgrace. I think ABC should be shut out. I'd much rather do it on NBC. I'd much rather do it on CBS, frankly. I think CBS is very unfair, but the best of the group. And certainly I'd do it on Fox. I'd even do it on CNN. I thought CNN treated us very fairly the last time.
Let the debate about the debate begin. There's just a little over 2 weeks until Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are set to face off in a critical head-to-head showdown. But it now seems like there are questions if the debate will actually go down. Trump is slamming the network hosting the September event, even hinting in a Truth Social post that he may drop out. We have The Hill's congressional reporter Michael Schnell here to talk about all of this. Michael, let's jump right to this back and forth playing out. What's the latest? What is each side saying?
Yeah, essentially what we're seeing play out right now is the debate about the debates. It's pretty customary when you talk about presidential election cycles, when they have these very high stakes primetime debates. The question right now is whether or not to keep the microphones open or not during the debate. We'll remember back during the CNN debate in June that the mics were closed when the other candidate was talking. Trump campaign wants to keep it that way. They want the microphones muted when it's not their turn to speak. The Harris campaign, though, says that they are pushing for the microphones to be left open during this event, noting that during the negotiations for parameters for the debate in June, they were not part of that because technically it was the Biden campaign and not the Harris campaign. So that's their stance right there. Former President Trump was actually asked about this earlier today. He was asked by an NBC News reporter, would you want microphones muted in the debate whenever you're not speaking? His answer was, quote, we agree to the same rules. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. The agreement was that it would be the same as it was last time. In that case, it was muted. So him right there making a push to keep the microphones muted, but also noting it doesn't happen. It doesn't matter to me. This all comes ahead of the September 10th debate. So it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on to see how this shakes out. And again, the debate before the debates, quite.
Now look, I don't get it. 1 second. What have I done? Why have I done this? There we go. I don't get it. Kamala Harris. Dang it. I don't get it, Kamala Harris. It doesn't matter. Well, no. Let me jump all the way back. I'm sure Kamala Harris has a strategic reason. She thinks it's going to be better to be able to leave the mics open. Whatever. I don't think that's a good way to host a debate in general. When is your turn to talk? Why have the mics open when it's not your turn to talk? It's that simple. Can you not beat Trump under any scenario? It doesn't matter if the mics are always open. It doesn't matter if there's an air horn going off every 30 seconds. Trump should be the easiest thing in the world to debate. Effing let them stay how they are. Don't spend. And this is me kvetching. I want to clarify again that what I started with. I'm sure she has a logical reason, but from my perspective, I don't see it. Now, obviously, I've got a disadvantage there, but squinting as hard as I can with my good eye, I still can't understand it. It's not a huge deal. Harris isn't the one running away from this. It's Trump that's scurrying away. I'm just saying that when it comes to the matter of, oh, should the mics be open or closed? Whatever, man. I would dare say, yeah, closed, and make that tradition from here on out. The mic's only open when it's your turn to speak, because it shouldn't be about who can do a better job of interrupting the other person. You make your point, and that's that. An actual cloud says it would be very difficult to debate Trump. I disagree. How do you prepare for all the lies? This is called the Gish Gallop. That's literally Trump's only technique. You know, the best debater. Hold up a second. Let me pull up this person's name. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but it's worth worth getting this correct. Dino debate, modern day debate. Not Ken Ham. Who's the let's just see. Who's that guy? Kent Hovind. Kent Hovind. A month ago? Okay, Professor Dave. Let me make sure I'm listening to the right thing here. Yes. Okay. This guy, Professor Dave, is a great example of how to debate somebody that does the Gish Gallop. You don't you don't take every single lie they told and try to debunk it. You say simply, everything this person just told you is a lie. They did that because the truth does not benefit them. They did that because all they have is lies. They're that bad for the country. And then you just debunk one of them. You say, Trump said he was good for the economy. Trump increased the national debt by more than any other president. Trump is responsible for 1/3 of the national debt. So he lied to you just now. He lied to you about that. He lied to you about everything else he said. Don't listen to this guy. You'll gain nothing from it other than a list of things he's willing to lie about. He never tells the truth. Now, here's what I'm going to do for the country. Bop, 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 bop. It should be easy to debate this guy. In the past, it hasn't been, because our representatives have been liars. Our representatives have been people who are just doing the bidding of oligarchs. And Trump came out in 2016 in the Republican primaries, and he was able, 2015 in the Republican primaries, and he was able to make fools of them by just pointing that stuff out. Then against Hillary, it was really hard for Hillary to do the neoliberal dance. It was really, really hard because she had to try to convince you, oh, no. Look, I'm going to help you by really helping corporations and helping you a little bit. That was essentially, it's been the way Democrats have always operated. And any policy she was talking about, it was either throwing a little bone to the people, and a huge bone to corporations, or it was a nonsensical thing that would never pass anyway, and she couldn't promise it. Trump was able to eat her up too. Harris is in a different position. Harris seems to be actually willing to listen to progressives. Not on everything, I know. But she saw the success of Bernie. She saw the success of these movements. Joe Biden's administration was one that actually had accomplishments for the people. It was a nightmare in foreign policy, I know. But for folks at home, it was great. She can actually talk about that stuff. That'll return strategies to argue against the Gish Gallop. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's actually not hard to debate somebody who does the Gish Gallop. You take one point that they made, you demonstrate why that's wrong. You take the thing that would be worst for them to be shown to be a liar about. You pick up all the things they said, whatever's easiest for you to just dismantle in one sentence. And you point out everything else they said is also a lie. I'm not going to go through the list. If you want, I'll post something. You know what? I'm going to have my staff. Staff, you're listening right now. Put a page on the website. List all this lies. There. Now you can see how everything he said is a lie. But for the purposes of this debate, now you know this guy's lying. And every single round, just remind people, he lied again about everything he said. Once again, here's the one I'm going to choose to dismantle. Bada bum. Now here's what I want to do. This is a fair point from an actual cloud. To a great extent, it depends on Kamala's skill and preparation. So we'll see. Yeah, she's a prosecutor. I'm confident, and I'm not surprised Trump is scared.
Quite a pastime in Washington.
Certainly a lot of gamemanship going on there. Now, coming out of the convention, polling continues to be favorable for Harris. She's taking a big 7-point lead nationally in a new poll just out over the weekend.
Guitar Dog, first of all, I'm very impressed. Second of all, debates have little to do with facts. I don't know where you're getting that impression from. Oh, probably from having watched U.S. political debates. They ought to. They ought to have a lot to do with facts. They have little to do with things that the debaters don't make them about. And that's the problem. But the facts are on the side of the Democrats this time. They usually are, but this time in particular. So it's a matter of making it about that. You can win debates and be wrong. Yeah, you can. But it's harder than winning debates when you're correct. Tom Trask. Modern presidential debate resembles professional wrestling to an uncomfortable degree. True. I want to hear more about this poll, but I'm going to look something else up while we're talking.
What's Harris's team doing to keep this type of momentum going?
Yeah, that's going to be really one of the biggest challenges from now until November. The Harris campaign had that massive boost when the vice president ascended to the top of the ticket following President Biden stepping down. And then they continued that momentum with the selection of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. And we're seeing that be sustained last week in Chicago, where Democrats gathered for the national convention. So now the big test and the big challenge for Democrats is going to be keeping that momentum up. So the polling remains high. So fundraising continues to funnel in. So volunteers on the ground continue to want to pitch in their help. That is going to be the main challenge really for the Harris campaign, because there's about 2.5 months now until Election Day, which sounds like a lot in the grand scheme of things. But in Washington, that can go very quick, but it can also be.
Yeah, it's an eternity. I think of the same clip every time. Ooh, give me a further moment. Whoa. Oh well. I can't remember the exact uh movie. I think he's fighting Khan, but I always think of that Star Trek moment where they've got to basically just be exposed for a little bit. And they're like, it'll be 15 seconds that he'll be able to fire on us with our shields down. And he goes, 15 seconds. Kirk, I think. 15 seconds. That's an eternity in combat. In politics, 2 months is an eternity. In work, it's not. 2 months is a grueling multiple weeks and weekends of clocking in and clocking out. But in politics, or rather, it is in work. It's a grueling 2 months, but it does fly by. In your kids' lives, 2 months is a blink. But in politics, yeah, think about where we were 2 months ago. Think of how different the race looked 2 months ago. We're talking about debates. I believe that they are good. I'll just tell you. I think they are where ideas are tested. And I think dishonest debaters have really wrecked a lot of the reputation of the art. But I recommend the channel Modern Day Debate for watching casually if you enjoy these things. And I also recommend occasionally you look at some of the classics. Here's James Baldwin. Let's see. Here's James Baldwin from 60 years ago talking about today's problem.
It is now with very great pleasure and a very great sense of honor that I call Mr. James Baldwin to speak third to this motion.
Apparently Paul McCartney was there.
Now we have Mr. James Baldwin, the star of the evening, who has been sitting, listening attentively, getting a wonderful reception here in the Cambridge Union. Tremendous enthusiasm from all sides of the House for Mr. Baldwin, who has been listening to the arguments. Now will bring the voice of actual experience to the debate.
Good evening.
That joke, they're talking about racial issues in America.
I find myself, not for the first time, in the position of a kind of Jeremiah. For example, I don't disagree with Mr. Burford that the inequality suffered by the American Negro population of the United States has hindered the American dream. Indeed, it has. I quarrel with some other things he has to say. The other deeper element of a certain awkwardness I feel has to do with it has to do with one's point of view. I have to put it that way. One's sense, one's system of reality. It would seem to me the proposition before the House, when I put it that way, is the American dream at the expense of the American Negro, or the American dream is at the expense of the American Negro, is a question hideously
I'm sorry
loaded.
to hear that, Elaine.
And that one's response to that question, or one's reaction to that question, has to depend on an effect on where you find yourself in the world, what your sense of reality is, what your system of reality is. That is, it depends on assumptions which we hold so deeply as to be scarcely aware of them. A white South African, or a Mississippi sharecropper, or a Mississippi sheriff, or a Frenchman driven out of Algeria. All have
Pause just real quick. What he just said affects all of us. Think about your deeply held assumptions. If you find yourself in conflict with people that you cannot explain, think about things you are assuming and be willing to challenge them. You could be found to be correct. Your deeply held assumptions might be found to be correct, but your willingness to challenge them is important.
have, at bottom, a system of reality which compels them to, for example, in the case of the French exile from Algeria, to defend French reasons for having ruled Algeria. The Mississippi or the Alabama sheriff, who really does believe when he's facing a Negro boy or girl, that this woman, this man, this child must be insane to attack the system to which he owes his entire identity. Of course, for such a person, the proposition of which we're trying to discuss here tonight does not exist. And on the other hand, I have to speak as one of the people who've been most attacked by what we must now here call the Western or the European system of reality. What white people in the world, the doctrine of white supremacy, I hate to say it here, comes from Europe. That's how it got to America. Beneath then, whatever one's reaction to this proposition is, has to be the question of whether or not civilizations can be considered as such equal, or whether one civilization has the right to overtake and subjugate and in fact to destroy another. Now what happens when that happens? Leaving aside all the physical facts which one can quote, leaving aside rape or murder, leaving aside the bloody catalog of oppression, which we are in one way too familiar with already, what this does to the subjugated, the most private, the most serious thing this does to the subjugated, is to destroy his sense of reality. It destroys, for example, his father's authority over him. His father can no longer tell him anything because the past has disappeared. And his father has...
Pause real quick. I know it's not related to this, but who is this Forrest person? Let me know. I want to look at that next. That sounds interesting. Who is this person that says they are from Florida when they used to say they're from Maine?
has no power in the world. This means, in the case of an American Negro, born in that glittering republic, and in the moment you are born, since you don't know any better, every stick and stone and every face is white, and since you have not yet seen a mirror, you suppose that you are too. It comes as a great shock around the age of 5 or 6 or 7 to discover that the flag to which you have pledged allegiance, along with everybody else, has not pledged allegiance to you. It comes as a great shock to discover that Gary Cooper killing off the Indians when you were rooting for Gary Cooper, that the Indians were you. It comes as a great shock to discover that the country, which is your birthplace, and to which you owe your life and your identity, has not in its whole system of reality evolved any place for you. The disaffection, the demoralization.
Let's pause there. Sam Cedar got blowback from his co-hosts multiple times when he said this, but it was one of the truest things I've ever heard. He was talking about how one of the main gripes he sees in the right wing is that they don't see themselves on TV anymore. I think that's true. And now the thing is, they do. They see themselves everywhere. But it used to be, and I can attest to this, it used to be that the default character, the protagonist, the hero, looked like me. Now, there is occasionally media made where there's a black hero, there's an Asian hero, there's a hero of unspecified this or that. The commercials will show mixed race families, will show as their example family someone who doesn't necessarily look like me. Not trying to make a pun out of this, but that gets under the skin of certain people. That gets under the skin of people that didn't ever think there was a problem, who would see 1,000 movies starring white folks and think nothing of it. But one movie starring a black person throws them off. Sam C, because it's not me up there anymore. What do they have against me? Sam Cedar pointed that out. James Baldwin here, bringing up a fantastic point. A hurt which happens. It's not just about the color of your skin. Little kid watches a movie, Cowboys versus Indians. You're supposed to be on the side of the Cowboys. And they're killing hordes of Indians, piles of Indians. Bam, 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 bam. Reload. Bam, 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 bam. Reload. Go get him, Gary. And they enjoy that movie in the same way that the white kid gets to enjoy it. Sure. And then later they find out you're the Indians. That hurts. Man. That hurts. Why do you want to keep putting people through that? It's been 60 years. 60 years since this debate. William F. Buckley, the guy on the other side of the debate, he got a TV show on the other end of this. James Baldwin didn't. If you ever wonder why you'll come across like somebody who's a middle-aged black activist. They may not themselves be black, but they are activists who care about the well-being of black folks. You ever wonder why they seem angry frequently? It's because there's another thing that happens in the course of a person's life that now has happened for multiple generations. And it's the realization that it's no different for their kids. It's the realization that the same problems are here because we failed to deal with them. I had a conversation with someone. I won't specify who, but it was someone in my life who I care a great deal about. And they are a lefty, by all accounts. Except for when it comes to Palestine. I asked him, how would you like this solved? Because we were at an impasse. He said, well, it seems to me like there needs, like the Jewish people need more space. There's Jews in Russia and all over the world who are looking for a place to live. And what we should do is clear out a little piece of Palestine and give it to them so they can live. And I said, why not? clear out some space in Israel for them. Why does the country have to expand its borders? And they said, well, there's not room. I pointed out that there's a denser population in Gaza than there is in Israel. And they avoided it. And I brought it back to that. And I said, what happens to the people who are there now? You can imagine where this went. I went to the history. I said, when Israel was being formed, what do you think the people who were living there felt about what was happening? And their honest opinion, this person who votes left every election, their honest opinion was that, well, they were honored. Obviously, civilization was coming. Civilization was coming. Apparently, it wasn't there when human beings were living there before, and they said that they believed that the people who lived there were thrilled to have people come in who would establish civilization. We keep making these same mistakes because we are unwilling to challenge our assumptions. And until that becomes a regular part of how we interact with each other, we're going to keep having these same mistakes happen over and over and over again. It has now been 60 years, and I can't earnestly say that the problems James Baldwin talks about are gone. His grandkids are going to have the talk with their kids. And on the path we are currently on, those kids are going to have the talk with their kids. Because we allow one group of people in this country to endure harsher conditions than the rest of us. It's not just about the people who are going out and doing these lynchings. It's not just about the people who are killing Sonia Massey. It's about the rest of us and our willingness to ignore this. Overseas, it's the same thing. You got two groups of people. You got Israelis and Palestinians. And we're willing to let harm come to one, but not the other. We shouldn't be comfortable letting harm come to anybody. Morbius Dragon with the very kind What You Can Do membership gift. Thank you. Sorry I'm being such a bummer. But I think it's important. Donald James X, people say that it's a geopolitical issue with Israel, but to me, it's just as much as religious ideology also. I think to a degree, yeah. I say to a degree because I think it's people's perception of religious ideology rather than the actual ideology of a religion. You know, I think people see, oh, some Palestinians are Muslim, and that's the religion that it's okay to be inhumane to. That's what I think. Anti-corporatist Donald James X and some of the settlers were forced out of the U.S. by high rents. They saw the low property prices and were hooked. Yeah. We've learned very little. Indeed. Thank you for your support. PNC Bio. Got yourself a new membership, my friend. Welcome. Oh, gang. Look, James Baldwin knocks it out of the park. What can I tell you? This whole speech is fascinating. We will we'll watch the whole thing sometime if you want. But I just wanted to point out that the problems of then are near identical to the problems of today. And I happen to know this is a largely white audience, not entirely, but a largely white audience. So let me address the honkies amongst us, of which I am one. We cannot be okay with this stuff. Sonia Massey was murdered in her home. Hey, you know what? The police in that particular instance, after the murder happened, after they were discovered, they eventually did the right thing, and that officer's in prison. There needs to be a stronger reaction. They first tried to cover it up. There's facts. They tried to cover it up. The family was under the impression that somebody else had killed their family member. So the people who tried to cover it up must also go to prison. It's a murder. They were accessories to a murder. If your friend shows up at your house and they're covered in blood and they've got a body in their trunk and you help them go bury it, and then you don't mention anything until an inspector comes by your house and they say, did your friend have a body with you? And you go, oh, yeah, they did. And it's buried out there. You still should face charges. Similarly, this is how we have to deal with all this. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Did Jake give us the K-fab behind the eye patch? Unfortunately, I gave you the real explanation. I didn't give you the K-fab. Because if I was too foolish, Tom. I was too foolish. I gave away the game immediately. I just earnestly spoke about it, and now I can't lie about it effectively. What actually happened is not cool, unfortunately. It wasn't even manly, you know? It's not even like I was trying to like get a rock from out underneath a lawnmower or something and it flew up. No. I just had an eyelash under my eyelid. I was trying to fish it out. I also had a hangnail, and those elements, my finger near my eyelid and a hangnail, came together in such a way that I tore up my eyelid pretty decently. And it's mostly fine as well. I just, keep scratching it. And also, if I'm honest, a member of the Wicked community pointed out that this is an opportunity to legitimately wear an eye patch. And why would you pass that up? Why would you pass that up? Madness. God damn it. AC. Anti-corporatist, what if the body is a bear? I'm asking for a friend. And, Trump. I want the real story. All right. So I was battling with a secret agent on top of a train, and we were going forward and backward and what have you, and then a bug flew into my eye. Oh, here we go. Series. You can lie to me. I just got here. Yeah. The bug thing's what we're going with. Donald James, it was starting to get infected and puffy. Yeah, because I kept touching it. It was relatively fine. Like for multiple weeks, it was healing nicely. But then I started scratching. Yeah. Also worth pointing out, this is a great time to point this out. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. Be critical of all of your internet mouth talkers. And me especially. At least the color doesn't clash with the suit. Of course, I'm going to coordinate. Are you kidding me? This is what you can do. We look fantastic at all times. Donald Trump. I should have pulled this up first. Donald Trump is doing something effing insane. We gonna talk about it.
There's a
in a moment. There we go. So just to make sure you had no doubts whatsoever that this guy is a traitor to the country, Donald Trump is hosting the January 6 awards. Here it is.
There's a backlash tonight over an apparent gala at former President Trump's Bedminster Golf Club. It's touted as a legal fundraiser to support people serving time in jail for the January 6 Capitol riot. The former president's team says he will not be there. News 4's investigative reporter Sarah Wallace is in Bedminster with what we know.
They're not heroes. My brother's a hero.
The reaction of Brian Sicknick's brother to this flyer announced.
Donald Trump says he will not be there. He doesn't have anything to do with it. He just came up with the idea and is putting it on and really wants more people to be traitors. Traitors.
A fundraiser for January 6 defendants to be held at the Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey on September 5th. Brian, a U.S. Capitol police officer, fought off the mob and died the next day.
They ought to release the J6 hostages.
This is a social media ad for the so-called J6 Awards Gala, hosted by the Stand in the Gap Foundation, a group co-founded by Sarah McAbee, the vocal wife of one of the January 6th defendants. This was her testifying before House Republicans.
It is imperative that we restore faith in our justice system and safeguard the rights of all individuals involved in January 6th.
Tickets for the J6 event to pay for defendants' legal fees, costing up to $50,000 for a table of 12. The former president is listed as an invited guest speaker, along with former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani and a self-proclaimed mega influencer, Anthony Raimondi, who posted on social media, "It's an honor to be speaking next to this man at Real Donald Trump," even though Trump's campaign insists he won't be there. At the convention last night, members of Brian Sicknick's family were greeted by cheers. Today, they learned of the J6 fundraiser.
They're criminals. They beat on police officers with weapons, flags, and sharp sticks.
On the same day as the J6 fundraiser here, there will be a hearing in Washington on Trump's claim of executive immunity regarding the conspiracy charges against him. From Bedminster, Sarah Wallace, News 4 New York.
It is ludicrous that Trump is not already in prison for January 6th. Let's be real. We do need to have a conversation about criminal justice in the United States. We have a weak criminal justice system. We have insufficient laws to hold powerful people to account. Trump, Giuliani, Mark Meadows, those three people should be in prison now. Their sentences should be no less than 20 years. I would personally argue, and the hippies that are my beloved audience may disagree with me because they're, decent people. I would argue the rest of their lives. Life sentences for all these people. The J6ers, I would say minimum 15 years in prison each. They're getting months. Some of them, 5 years. Those are the harsh sentences. They bludgeoned a cop in the head with a fire extinguisher, so we're going to give them 5 years. Listen. They were just trying to overthrow democracy for Republicans. 5 years. Just 5 years. Bad. Now this person, Trump, this guy who tried a coup, is so blatantly trying to overthrow democracy that he's hosting a gala in the name of the coup he tried. We for sure, one thing we're in agreement on, we have a problem with the criminal justice system in this country. We just utterly disagree about what the problem is. Problem is that Trump is not currently in prison. That weakness has been exposed for the whole world to see, and no one will respect us until it is corrected. Rightfully so. We are not worthy of respect until it is corrected. This is a disgrace. Trump must be imprisoned because he tried a coup. Giuliani, same. Meadows, same. The fake electors, including the people in my own state, by God, who tried to undo my vote. Prison. Thankfully, my Attorney General, Dana Nessel, is on it, at least as far as the fake electors go. I would like to see her also put state charges on Trump. Georgia had the wherewithal to do that. Good. Keep it going. It is an absolute disgrace that this person is even in consideration to be president, to legitimately be put into the position of power again. This guy is a criminal. He is a traitor to the country. He deserves cold gruel served on a tin plate, slid underneath bars through a little slot about that big. He deserves whatever the worst treatment is we give to prisoners in this country. I happen to think we should have more humane treatment of our prisoners. But so long as anybody is allowed to be tossed into solitary confinement to rot, Trump should be receiving that treatment because he is the worst of us. The United States, above all else, cares about one thing, and that is democracy. He is a traitor. He's a traitor to the United States and the very concept of democracy. He deserves prison for life. Latino Mufune, we need to apply existing anti-terrorism laws and put Trump and the January 6th terrorists through military court, not criminal court. I'm up for that, yeah. I don't personally think we should have anybody who's not in the military tried in military court. But so long as we do, then Trump must receive that treatment. So long as these laws exist for some, they must exist for him. Why are we choosing to give him the lightest version of everything to the point where we are ignoring crimes? He just tried to negotiate against our country with the leader of another country. He is interfering with the peace deal in Israel. What else is he doing that we don't know about? These are just the things that we know about that the DOJ is choosing to ignore. How many credible tips have they gotten, torn up, tossed in the trash? We will likely never know the totality of it. But the glimpse we got, even with my one semi-functioning eye, the glimpse that we got is enough to know that we are in serious trouble, that we have got major work to do. And I want to see lefties appointed to positions of power within the Department of Justice. That has to be a major focus of the next administration. We also need right-wingers thrown out. Why lefties? Not because I particularly agree with their politics, although I do, but that's not the reason. The reason is because they can be trusted to do an honest job. Whereas the right-wingers of America have been shown to be liars, corrupt, villains. We have to stop pretending like you can trust the opinion of a lifelong liar. You can't. People that are okay with the Supreme Court getting bribed, if they are a Trump supporter now, they are an admitted fraudster. If they're in a position of power where they ought to know better, it's different if they've been lied to at the ground level. It's different if they only get their information from Fox News. But if they are part of the government and they're saying, "Oh yeah, I'm a big Trumper," okay, we know what you're about. We all saw January 6th. We know what you're willing to ignore. We cannot allow you anywhere near power. You're gone. Hold on. Imagine for a moment that supporters of Jefferson Davis were elevated to positions of power following the Civil War. Would that not seem wackadoo? Would it not seem like the country is choosing to encourage another one? It's bizarre to me. Anti-corporatists, they live in a different mental/emotional existence, Jake. Alternative facts indeed. Yeah, let's pull them back. Let's at the very least force people to admit to reality. If you motherfuckers want to undo democracy, we have to at least force them to say it. Force them to say that they're just trying they're just trying to get away with the crime. This feels like a bank robbery where the entire time the bank robbers are pointing guns at people and then screaming at them to stop calling them robbers. Elaine, based on the photos from the Arizona rally, it's poorly applied makeup and not spray tan after all. His makeup melted. Oh, God. Let's have a gander. Trump. Photos, Arizona rally makeup. Oh, God. Oh. Where's that good? Oh, there's that great shot. 1 second. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got a JPEG version here. 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Open image in new tab. Yeah. Ugh. Ugh. You're not wrong. Good Lord. I think it might be both. Is it bronzer? I don't know. That's brutal, man. Anti-corporatist, and I mean, so many of them have been brainwashed by the right-wing media. I mean, look at the mainstream media. How many idiots are still spouting that Israel has a right to defend itself? All of them. Yeah. The implication of that, the reason that sentence annoys so many people is that nobody was implying something different. And it also implies that what is currently happening by massacring truckloads of civilians, like that's defense. That's not defense. Elaine, apparently he doesn't know about primer or setting spray. I know a thing or two about primer as it comes down to painting. I assume it's similar. The makeup person is sabotaging him. A lot of the look is sweat, true, but the makeup person sabotaging him, that's a conspiracy theory I'd absolutely believe. Elf Halo Glow, I think. Yeah, I got Elf right here. Very reliable. Very reliable makeup. I use it to take the shine off my nose. Oh, you know what? Let's do a little demonstration. See? No more shine. Very useful stuff. And that's how I got cancer. PNC Bio, if you're going to show that, how about having some eye bleach on hands? Kittens with yarn or something. Yeah, fair point. Fair point. And most of the same people would never dream of saying George Zimmerman had a right to chase down Trayvon Martin and then stand his ground. Yeah, exactly. Okay, folks. Now I know I make fun of oopsie doodles. I know I make fun of. Oh, I just screwed that up. Right wingers a lot, but sometimes you just have to acknowledge charisma. You know. damn it. There goes all my gag. Okay. So sometimes you just have, I'm going to still pretend like I can get away with this. Sometimes you just have to acknowledge charisma, raw campaigning power. When someone's a man of the people and they know it, and they just go out and they glad hand and they're winning people over with their personality. I think that's J.D. Vance. I think that's J.D. Vance for sure. He might win this thing for Trump. Here he is, charming the socks off the staff of a donut shop.
Good. The zoo has come to town. Thank you for letting us come in here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Looks like we're.
Yeah.
Is everybody else in here? All right, one of the few. Okay. I'm J.D. Vance. I'm running for vice president. Good to see you.
Okay.
And just to, random sport road stuff.
Begin at July.
Okay.
So, one of the things about this clip is that and part of the reason I'm using it is that they have cut out the lady who said, "I don't want to be on camera, sir." He came in and said, "Thank you for letting us come in here." I don't think they did, because these employees had no idea what was going on. And they didn't want to be on camera. At least one of the ladies working there did not.
Alicia.
Okay. Yeah. How much you, sir?
Almost 2 years.
Okay. Good. How long? Just everything. Yeah, it'll be a lot of glade and cinnamon rolls. Just whatever makes sense.
Yeah, whatever makes sense. Just whatever gross, normal peasants eat, Shove it in there. I'm going to throw it in the trash as soon as I get out of here. I'd prefer not to touch the box at all, if possible. Is there a way that we could, I don't know, see, I guess I have to be seen holding it. Ugh. Anyway, yeah, just shove it. Stuff. How long you been here? A couple of weeks? Okay. How about you? A couple of years? Ugh, all right. Why don't you give me something to work with? I'm trying to shoot something here. Give me something to work with. When I ask you, how long have you been here? You're supposed to say, trans people are scary. And then I say, oh, good, we're going to put them in camps. Duh. This whole donut shop is a massive disappointment to me. What's that? I have to leave? Why?
Ma'am, if you don't want to be on film, you're good. If you don't want to be on film, you're okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I know I was filming you without your permission. I know I pointed the cameras at where you have to be to serve me, and then I said, "Come serve me." But what she said is legally, technically true. You don't have to do that thing. Legally speaking, you don't have to do that thing. Come serve me, though. Come serve me. Hey, how long's the donut shop been here?
About 4 years.
About 4 years.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, next time I say how long has something been here, I want you to complain about a minority. All right? Now I'm just spelling it out for you. Fuck's sake.
Okay. How long have you been here?
A little over 6 months.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Place. I didn't know if it had been here for 20 years or 4 years or anything. Never had some.
I didn't know the time frame.
It's a whole story.
I wasn't aware of the time frame that we were dealing with. I didn't know if it was 3 years, 4 years, 8 years. I didn't know if it was 1 year. I didn't know if it was like 6 years, maybe 9 years, possibly 7. How long have you been here? Okay. Great. How long has America been here? Okay. How long have donuts existed? Okay. What should I put in the box? Whatever gross people eat. Just grab a handful of this disgusting fried dough covered in sugar and put it in this cardboard. And then I guess I'll take it out with my bare hands. Ugh. Okay, great. Hey, how fertile are you right now? fucking creep. Oh, God. Elaine, okay, good. Kind of like the video that I shared. Contributors. Oh, Poliver isn't Canada's Donald Trump. He's our J.D. Vance. Oh, buddy. I'm going to that now. I hope you realize. I don't want the newsletter, but I do want the article. Trump. Oh, wait. Poliver isn't our Donald Trump, says the Toronto Star. Isn't Canada's Donald Trump. He's our J.D. Vance, politician like Poliver or Vance. Hey, I say that like an American who's never been outside of his neighborhood. I do that because I find it a little bit funny. But also, please tell me how to say it correctly. Politicians like Poliver or Vance may think they're sneakily swindling far-right groups in order to secure their votes. In reality, the opposite tends to be true. These fringe groups exploit politicians to amplify their views. Oh my God, it's so true. Edging them further into the mainstream. The tiger, so the adage goes, swallows the rider. Who is riding a tiger at all? This is by John Semley, a contributor to the Toronto Star. Earlier this year, the American news website Vox introduced its broad readership to Pierre Poliver. They accounted for the popularity of the Canadian Conservative leader with recourse to an American phenomenon, the right-wing populism of Donald Trump. Stand by. I'm enjoying this. The piece painted Poliver as an embodiment of Canada's polite Trumpism. Not terribly wrong so far, if I'm being honest. Such a diagnosis may rattle many Canadians who regard the grotesquerie of Trump and his MAGA ideology as uniquely symptomatic of life below the 49th parallel. It ain't, I'm sorry to say, it's spreading, not unlike cancer. Trumpism, we'd all like to believe, has about as much place in Canada as AR-15s or four-down football, also known as correct football. But you needn't worry. Some basic overlap in rhetoric and ideology aside, the Poliver-Trump comparison falls short, as anyone watching the two national campaigns may have gleaned of late. Pierre Poliver isn't Canada's Donald Trump. He's our J.D. Vance. Okay. I do have to say, I think they're right on the vibes. They're right. The reason being, Trump, for all of his evil, has charisma. Poliver doesn't, Vance doesn't. They can't sell it the same way Trump can. They don't get a giggle. Poilievre. Thank you. Poilievre. Poilievre. All right. Now I'm going to practice. I'm going to leave that up. Poilievre. All right. Let's take a whack. Poilievre and Poilievre and Vance have plenty in common. They're both relatively young, at least by the standards of the modern political gerontocracy. They're both openly combative, at least rhetorically. Yeah, that needs to be stressed. There is no such thing as a brave conservative. They take aim at the mainstream media, and they're both lifelong students of the conservative movement who seem to take seriously both its intellectual history, Patrick Keenan and Rene Girard for Vance, Milton Friedman, motherfucker, Milton Friedman and Alberta Report magazine for Poilievre, and their place within it. They also share a chameleonic quality. Do I need to bring it up? No, but I will. I don't care how long this is taking. I'm pulling up this thing. You know what? I just realized my own channel has this clip. Look at it. Look at that fucking cowboy hat. I know. You guys told me. Alberta has like ranchers and what have you. Okay. Fair enough. Poilievre ain't one of them. All right. Back to kvetching. They also share chameleonic quality, as just demonstrated, which exceeds the politicians' usual demands to be all things to all people. About a year ago, Poilievre hung up his starchy suits and spectacles and started dressing like a British atheist stand-up comic. All right. He began making public appearances without his corrective lenses, sporting conspicuously tight t-shirts that accentuate his pectoral muscles and biceps, such as they are. It's a macho makeover meant to soften the conservative leader's more long-standing and arguably accurate image as a pencil-necked policy wonk. This regular guy revamp belies Poilievre's status as a backroom glad-hander, pressing the flesh, I saw, there we go, with lobbyists from the banking, oil, and gas and telecom industries at cash for access fundraisers and exclusive members-only clubs. Vance has engineered a similar transformation. A few times over, he rose to prominence on the back of his best-selling memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, Lies About My Mama, which was subsequently adapted into a poorly reviewed Netflix original movie, His Rags to Riches Story, which elevated him from the opioid-ravaged hollers of Appalachia to Yale Law and maybe the White House. God, I hope not, was the stuff of Horatio Alger. Vance never misses a chance to invoke his working class roots in a bid to appeal to those same demographics. At the same time, yeah, good spot. I agree. He is Canada's J.D. Vance. Thank God for Canada. Elaine, considering most of her work has been law-related, that's hilarious. Wait, let me go. Let's see what Groove Dragon was talking about. The lawyers worked for Reagan and Bush 1 and Bush 2. They hammered Trump as a threat to the Constitution. Ooh. Oh, now this is interesting. This is intriguing. Oh, love it or leave it. Let me tell you, I'm angry with that show in particular because we're going to watch that in a second. Their theme song, love it or leave it, yada, 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 is catchy. It's so catchy. And it goes into my brain, and the only way I can get it out is if I push it out with a bullet. I also don't like the logo of the Statue of Liberty on it, on the John, and it's a good show. I like that he's like doing a stand-up thing now. I think that's good. I think we ought to try to appeal more. All right. I'm exiting out of the other stuff. We are going to watch this here from Love It or Leave It, the spin-off show of one of the guys from Pod Save America, comparing Vance and Tim Walz.
Used to go to runs, and then we did a little rally on the side, but we had a little extra time. Amazing. If you don't know, the iconic Nebraska restaurant is the Runza. Don't call it anything else except for Runza. The bread consistency, all of it really matters. I got the Swiss and mushroom is kind of a classic. The cheese is solid. You can be a little bit creative, but this is it. If you're going to go to Nebraska, if you're going to go to a Nebraska football game, if you're just...
When you guys are watching this, remember what J.D. Vance looked like. And now compare it. We just saw that a few minutes ago. Yeah. Okay. How long you been here? Okay. How long has this place been here? Okay. How long have you been here? Okay. All right, we done? Good. Now Tim Walz. Talking to human beings.
Just going to be a good person, you stop at runs. I think it's the bread consistency. I mean,
Making your own in every day?
yeah, get this guy on TV for runs us. Thanks for the work you're doing. Matters. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Pleasure to meet you all. Wow.
I mean, you're just correct. You're just correct. Look at the difference between the two. Human being versus automaton. You know what? I'm going to let Lovett have about 40 seconds. I can't remember if this next bit was funny, but I watched this yesterday. And it might have been. And I kind of like John Lovett, so I want to possibly have an excuse to talk about it. Let's see how his bit goes. Remember, he's doing like kind of a stand-up thing now with the notes and the what have you in the live crowd. So let's see. Maybe it's good. I don't remember.
That to me is also just a great example of happy people make people happy, right? He's just a happy guy. He made those people happy. JD Vance may be smiling, but he's not a happy person. JD Vance challenging Tim Walz to a normal person contest is like JD Vance challenging Simone Biles to a normal person contest.
Why is StreamYard? Oh, good. Okay. My bad. First of all, JD Vance challenging Simone Biles to a normal person contest. Fucking hilarious. Well done, John Lovett. Second of all, I'm sorry, StreamYard froze for a second. But we appear to be back. And if you can still hear me, good. Yeah. I don't think this is just us chickens talking. So please understand that I'm not saying we can relax, because we can't. We cannot relax. But I don't think things look particularly good for Trump at the moment. I think he chose a fucking terrible vice presidential pick. I don't think he cared at all about who he was as a human being. I think he only cared about the money. And, you know, it's about what I would expect from Donald Trump Jr. recommending someone. Oh, a Kent Hovind thing. Let me look at this for a second. I want to see. There's one of my favorite YouTube channels that I rarely bring up here. It's called Paulogia. If you guys aren't watching Paulogia, well, it's fine. He doesn't talk about politics nearly as much. But if you enjoy learning about religion and religious sects, sects, Paulogia is a great one. All right, I'm just going to play this. I'm just going to play it. It's not what I was originally looking for, but this is interesting. Let's watch it together, and I'll possibly comment on it. Here's the thing. You know what? This is turning into a Kent Hovind stream. Hold on to your butts, folks. It's now the Kent Hovind stream. We got to talk about this guy. A lot of folks that were surprised by Trump and Trumpism would not have been if they were watching, frankly, what Kent Hovind was up to.
YouTube apparently has taken down our main channel, Kent Hovind Official. Whoopsie. We're going to try to get things redirected over to Dinosaur Adventureland to this channel.
Nope. YouTube took that one down too.
We don't even know what they took it down for.
So many possible reasons.
They said we can buy our subs back. You got to pay $4,000 to buy back 200,000 subscribers.
Wait, did you buy your 200,000 subscribers?
The atheists will say, see, they bought their subs. They were already our subs. We had to pay YouTube to get them reinstated.
Sorry, that's not how this sort of thing works.
Sorry for the poor quality, folks. Record it, copy it, save it, and share it everywhere you want, okay?
I will.
YouTube apparently has taken down our main channel, Kent Hovind Official.
Whoopsie.
We're going to try to get things redirected over to Dinosaur Adventureland to this channel.
Nope. YouTube took that one down too.
We don't even know what they took it down for.
So many possible reasons.
They said we can buy our subs.
StreamYard, what are you doing? All right, so my love of Balagia does not extend to his shorts. I don't feel like they're quite as good, but still. All right, this is now a Kent Hovind stream because we got to talk about who this guy is. That was not very telling, frankly. This will be. I could literally pull up
the next story.
Any random news story about Kent Hovind, and it will be the most galling thing you will have heard today if we haven't already talked about Kent Hovind. For those of you who don't know, Kent Hovind is a con artist. He's made a whole career out. He's a professional con artist, and he's made a whole career out of conning Christians. He preys upon people who have sincere religious beliefs, and he tries to warp those beliefs in such a way that he gets money. He claims to have been a high school teacher. In reality, he taught out of a one room building, essentially. He has no particular degree. He calls himself, I think, Dr. Dino. He doesn't have a doctorate. He pursues fringe theories. Oh, yeah, I don't care that my eye's going to rot out of my skull. That feels good in this moment. He teaches things that are just contrary to modern science, to any science, I guess. Biblical literalist, yada yada yada. He does a series of tapes. Him and Ken Ham as well does a similar scan, where he teaches kids about the world, but it's all misinformation. It's like, oh, here's evidence. We found Noah's Ark. Here it is. No, we didn't. There's a lot of folks who will have grown up watching Kent Hovind tapes. He went to prison for tax fraud. And since then, that wasn't enough to ruin his career. In fact, he had a sort of revival. By the way, when he went to prison, his son, Eric Hovind, took over the family business of scamming people with sincerely held religious beliefs by lying to them. And when he got out of prison, Eric didn't give it back because he doesn't get along with his dad. Since then, he's come back. He's resurged. He has a successful YouTube channel, or apparently had. Now it's gone. Think about how hard it is for a right-winger to get banned on something. Kent Hovind was banned. Here is Owen's, it's Telltale, a.k.a. his spin-off channel, Owen's Fireside Chat. This is from 2 years ago. I promise you it gets worse. I'm just giving you a taste of who Kent Hovind is. We're going to talk about how this relates to Trumpism in a moment.
The article I wanted to talk about is titled Creationist Kent Hovind Sentenced to 30 Days in Jail for Domestic Violence. This is written by Hemant Mehta on the Friendly Atheist website. Before I read the article, though, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a recap. Not long ago, I talked about this situation. I talked about Kent Hovind basically being charged with like a DV thing, being accused of body slamming his ex-girlfriend at the time. This was like 6 months ago when this took place, I think. I think he was charged with assault 3. We're going to take a look at the court documents in a minute and we'll be able to figure out exactly what it was. We'll get to it in a second. But he was charged with, I believe, assault 3, and he turned himself in when that took place, paid his bail of, I think, $100. His bail was actually set to $1,000. And
now, look, I want to be clear. This is not the reason that you shouldn't listen to what Kent Hovind has to say about religion or politics. This is just sort of secondary evidence of the fact that he's not a good person. It's so you understand the hypocrisy when he disparages people who don't have religion, because he'll so frequently accuse your humble atheist of having no morals while he's beating his wife, etc., etc. I just want you to get a sense of who this guy is. We're not going to watch this whole thing. I just want you to get a sense of who he is. Again, this is from 2 years ago.
The way the court system works is you have to come up with 10% of that in cash, or you have to put like your house up, a piece of property that's worth $1,000. So he paid $100 cash, and if he comes back to court on time when he's supposed to, he gets that $100 back. That's how bounty hunting works. So a bounty hunter, for example, your bail is set to $100,000. A bounty hunter will come in, pay $10 or whatever back from the court. So they net $10,000 total. If they had nothing to do with your case, they just go in and ask the courts for like a loan. In Coven's case, it wasn't $100,000, it was $1,000. So he only had to pay 10% of that, which is $100. I didn't really want to talk about this when it happened because there was no real information. It was only charges. It wasn't convictions. And I didn't feel like it was right to talk about this until there was a conviction. Well, now there's a conviction. At the time, I felt like it was a he said, she said situation, and we had no way of really knowing which one was true or what happened because we weren't in the room, and it was a personal issue, and I wasn't going to address it until something changed on this issue. Well, here we are. It's changed. He's been convicted. I think he took a plea bargain, which basically means he just wanted to skip the trial, and he wanted to do his time, pay his fine, and move on with his life.
It also means that the evidence against him was so overwhelming that he didn't think he could win in court. So when I tell you that Eric Hovind is such a bad person that he's willing to lie to people with sincerely held religious beliefs for profit. He was willing to take over his con artist father, con artist industry. But when Eric Hovind wouldn't give it back, and now you see Kent Hovind convicted of engaging in spousal abuse. You can maybe get a sense of why Eric Hovind didn't have a whole lot of love for that guy. It gets so much worse. I'm going to spare you guys carrying this on your soul, but his little theme park, I think it's Dino Adventureland, employed a bunch of diddlers, employed known diddlers, as in Kent Hovind was informed that, hey, on your staff, you have people abusing kids. He did nothing. He, in fact, kept the guy on. It goes on and on and on and on. I'm going to pull up modern day debate. Because that's why Kent Hovind is a bad person. That's so you get a sense of his character. This is why you shouldn't listen to anything he has to say in terms of intellectually.
Hey, everybody. Today we are debating human evolution, and we are starting right now.
The show is Modern Day Debate. I love it. I recommend you watch it. And if you know how I can pressure James, the guy who runs it, to put me in, coach, do let me know. Because I'm desperate to be on that show. There's a bucket list of things I would love to do in life. One of them is take a chunk out of some son of a gun on Modern Day Debate.
Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to have you here. Oh, hold on. We just had a picture swap. If you guys can do me a favor, thank you very much.
Okay. So, Erica, aka Gutsick Gibbon. She's an educated woman. I believe she is Dr. Gutsick Gibbon. She's a scientist of some sort. But what I want to do, she's going to make great arguments for evolution being real. I'm jumping past all of them because I want you to hear Hovind.
But in the past, you certainly have zero evidence.
Thank you very much, Erica.
We're not here to understand the specifics of the arguments because with Kent Hovind, there's no point. There are none. We're here to understand how people get away with telling lies during debates that they know are lies. We need to understand this so we can see how Republicans work. What you're going to hear out of Hovind are the same techniques Republican politicians use to lie to their people. In other words, Kent Hovind is somebody who squints at the Bible until he sees what he wants to see. And that crowd, the crowd that falls for that, has been recruited by people that squint at the Constitution until they see what they want to see.
Very, very fun
Listen
opening
to how
statement.
Kent
We are
Hovind
looking forward to hearing
lies.
Kent Hovind. So I've got the timer set, and like I said, these will be flexible. So there's I think it's maybe 12 and a half to 13 minutes. So we'll do something like that. So Kent, I have the timer set for you, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, sir. And thank you, Erica, for doing this. It's obvious they've indoctrinated you very well. We can fix all of that. Not a problem. Okay. The Bible says very clearly that God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. The Bible clearly says 10 times in the first chapter that all the plants and animals will bring forth after their kind. There will be no major changes. You might get a big dog or a little dog, but you're going to get a dog every time. There are no farmers on planet Earth in the history of the world that will tell you they've ever seen any plant or animal produce other than its kind.
Okay, so he's refuting a thing that was not stated. Nobody who's arguing for evolution as a theory would suggest that they would see an animal give birth to a totally new kind of animal instantaneously like that. But he's up there saying no farmer will ever tell you that a chicken gave birth to a cow or some such thing. So why do that? If that's not what's being stated, why do that if you're Kent Hovind? Well, it's because he knows that the people who are watching this that don't understand anything Erica said, that just hear a bunch of charts and graphs and think, well, she must be against me. They don't need to understand the details of the arguments. They're not there for actual understanding. All they need to see is that somebody who apparently agrees with them is confidently disagreeing with the other person. They just need that little line that they can repeat later. Well, no farmer's ever seen a chicken give birth to a cow. Got him. Doesn't need to make sense, in other words. And he knows that. And because he's a dishonest actor, he goes up there and he does that kind of nonsense for 15 minutes straight. Then he relies on Erica or whoever getting distracted or just moving on. Usually what happens is they don't directly call him a liar. They say, well, I disagree with blah, 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 and then they move on politely. Therein lies the fault. But it's really, I feel, important to stress before you move on, just so you know, this person lied. This person distracted. They misrepresented the case. Here's what they said. It was not true. Everything else that they said was also basically the same lie. So, they are a liar, and you can fully discount anything they have to say. Now, moving on with my case. I'm just going to play another I'm just going to jump ahead like 2 minutes. And let's see him gish gallop.
Not real scientific
Gish
evidence.
gallop.
The fact that the eyes are different, or the nose is different, or the attachment to the spine, to the skull, that is not proof they're related, because you can line up ones that hold their head differently. And I'll get into that in a minute. The Bible says in the last days there would be scoffers who would be willingly ignorant, and they've swallowed Satan's lie of evolution, and they make these family trees, these timelines going from nothing exploding for 13.772 billion years ago, and 9 weeks now since I made the slide. So nothing exploded. Slowly the earth cooled down and became a rock.
It's another thing he does. Just randomly tosses in Satan's lie of evolution. I don't think that anybody who holds sincere Christian beliefs considers evolution to be a lie by Satan. Even most people who practice Christianity also believe in evolution. Them's just the facts. But as in, they don't see a conflict. They don't have the arrogance to insist that God need restrict themselves in how they get their business done. But he just tosses in that the other person must be satanic because they disagree with me. And he assumes correctly that won't really be addressed. But it's just like a free little insult. It's a free little piece of inflammatory dialogue that they needle in to try to get away with. And that's how he manipulates people. Now people with sincerely held beliefs and absolutely no education glance over at Erica there and goes, she's on the side of Satan? It's fascinating. Mars Falcon. Satan uses just the correct amount of paprika and sriracha sauce. I swallow all that smack he lays out. Oi. All right.
Rock. And in that rock, it rained on the rocks for millions of years and developed a soup, and the soup came alive. This is what the theory teaches. I'm sitting in a room full of textbooks. I can show you. This is what evolution says. And then slowly this rock, this single-celled creature, turned into a primate, and the primate...
I guess I'm not letting him finish. So he says, this is what evolution says, and then he lies. He says, I'm surrounded by textbooks, and then he lies. But if you're not questioning these things, if you're not willing to question your sources or examine your own beliefs, you're watching passively and you've already decided, well, I agree with Jesus, and so I must agree with Kent Hovind, and so then I must disagree with the other person. Then what you're going to come away thinking is like, well, he had all those scientific authorities on his side. He himself must be quite educated. He must be correct. Doesn't pull out the books and show you. And it's really important to point out he just lies about what's in them. If there are even books on evolution around him, I would doubt that deeply. But it would be like if I said Christianity says that all Asian people must be put to death, and I don't agree with that. But that's just what it says in the Bible. I'm surrounded by all these books right now that say that's what it says, and that's what they believe. It's that level of clownishness that Kent Hovind sells successfully to his audience of millions, or hundreds of thousands at least.
Became
these days
our more specialized species, man. That's what they teach. 13.7 billion years ago, Earth cooled down 4.56987263 billion years ago and formed a rocky crust, and it rained on the rocks for millions of years. And here we are, the primates and modern man, learning how to write 0.00001 billion years ago. This is the family tree, and you swallowed it, Erica, and I'm sorry about that, but they do show that man and the apes related. Now, when I taught school, I had some students that really left me scratching my head, wondering if maybe they had some ape in them, but no, we don't. The similarities you see in DNA and in structure is just as easily explained with a common designer.
So, what does this have to do with Trumpism? What does it have to do with MAGA? Well, the Kent Hovind scam, it's the same as the Ken Ham scam. Basically, they find people who are susceptible to manipulation, and they lie to them about their own religion. I firmly believe that Kent Hovind is an atheist. I don't think he believes in God because he lies so blatantly about what is in the Bible. If he cared about what the Bible was preaching, he wouldn't lie about its contents. But he does this thing where he'll cherry pick sentences from the Bible and use them to claim that the Bible says things that it frankly does not. I notice that the Republican Party does the exact same thing. Trump does the exact same thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene does the exact same thing. These people don't care about the Constitution. They don't care what the Constitution actually says. They will squint at it until they can squeeze something from it that is not actually there. They'll cut it up and make a collage until it says something that it didn't initially say. That's why the Federalist Society exists. It's for people to do that. To put a sheen of legal reasoning in front of what ultimately is just authoritarianism. When they say that Trump is going for evangelicals, these are the evangelicals he's going for. These always have been. These people who are susceptible to manipulation of this kind. And it's the exact same scam. Trump tries to manipulate people. Originally, his career was to manipulate people based on the perception of wealth. The sort of people who would be impressed by a gold toilet. He sold Trump steaks, Trump vodka, yada, yada, yada. For people that either didn't have money or didn't come from money and got a few dollars to burn, to try to feel like they're a rich person because they think what a rich person is Trump. What they think a Christian scientist is Kent Hovind. Trump is switching gears. Trump switched gears when he jumped into politics, and he ran that same scam, but now it's fake patriots. To the point, and it was successful this time around, to the point that he got people trying to overthrow democracy in a coup and calling themselves patriots for it. They had a traitor flag flying in the Capitol. And they said they were the loyal Americans. It's worth pointing out Kent Hovind and his ilk suffer the same kinds of scandals that Republicans do. Isn't it funny that those kinds of con artists also participate in the same kind of law breaking behind the scenes and sometimes in plain sight? I'm talking tax fraud. I'm talking not being able to keep your hands off of people that didn't give you permission to touch them sexually. More from Kent Hovind.
In October 2020, we laughed as creationist Kent Hovind was suing the federal government for over $500 million.
$500 million.
In October 2021, Kent Hovind had been accused of stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars, convicted of body slamming his third wife to the ground, and was awaiting either jail time or an appeal.
Motion for a new trial.
Now, in what's becoming an annual update, it's October 2022, and Kent Hovind is looking back on a year with yet another new wife,
Okay, have a seat here.
a YouTube ban,
Seems like YouTube just can't handle the criticism.
the death of his health expert,
You're probably missing some vitamin or mineral.
a violation of a restraining order,
I'm not supposed to be within 500 feet. Okay.
a stroke,
I kind of, what?
Are you okay?
another trial,
That judge does not even like my husband.
and just when we thought it couldn't go any lower, the Dinosaur Adventureland compound's darkest accusations to date, missing children,
You're more concerned about a kid you haven't seen.
and systematic abuse.
And I said I was no threat to her or anyone else.
I'm not going to lie. This is going to be a rough one, folks. If you're sensitive to topics of domestic, sexual, or child abuses, you might want to give this one a pass. Welcome to Apologia, where a former Christian takes a look at the claims of Christians.
Apologia, you claim you used to be a Christian and left. Okay, I don't know if you were or not.
And usually that means claims about science, history, philosophy, society, or theology. But every once
Let me just be clear. We're not going to watch all the disturbing stuff. I don't have the stomach for it today. You don't need to have the stomach for it today. Just touching on the fact that these folks have similar scandals. Republican operatives and Christian con artists. I do also want to really highlight one thing that he just played as a gag. This.
where a former Christian, I'm not, and systematic abuse.
And I said,
missing children,
you're more concerned.
compounds darkest accusations, systematic. This is
Wait a
going to
second.
be a rough one.
You used to
Okay.
be a Christian and left.
There we go.
Okay, I don't know.
One more time.
Welcome to Apologia, where a former Christian takes a look at the claims of Christians.
Apologia, you claim you used to be a Christian and left. Okay, I don't know if you were or not.
And usually
They also tell on themselves constantly. He makes fun of Apologia, or accuses Apologia of being dishonest about his belief system. I think, and I will fucking die on this hill, I think Kent Hovind is not a Christian. Because he lies about the contents of the Bible. He is so comfortable doing that. True Christians. This is not a true Scotsman thing. This is a definitional. People who are Christians believe in the words in the Bible. So to make up what the Bible says is blasphemy. I'm not even Christian, and I'm sensitive about blasphemy, simply because I do not want to offend the sensibilities of people who sincerely hold those beliefs. I am trying to be respectful of them. Kent Hovind lies about the Bible. So they tell on themselves, too. For the record, Apologia was a Mennonite. He was practicing and just thoroughly Christian when he was working on when he was working with George Lucas back in the day on the prequel trilogy. That's a fun fact about Apologia. He worked on the Star Wars movies. He since apologized. No, he worked on those, and at the time he was a devout Christian. Quiz this man on the Bible. Apologia. You stop by one of his live streams, anyone. Quiz him on the Bible. And even just as a party trick, you'll be impressed by his knowledge. He knows his stuff because he was a sincere believer. Let's jump to the accusations. Notice how they are quite similar. Republicans they're handsy, let's say that.
hundreds of current and former workers and associates, including Mark Stoney, Steve Lynn, Bill Sardi, Paul Hansen, and Kent's apprentice, Matt Powell. Kent's year is a spectrum from the silly to the serious. We're going through it all in chronological order, so I hope you can stick with us to the end, Somehow it gets
We're not going
worse as we go. And while we're disclaimering, remember that everything you're about to hear in this video are allegations until otherwise proven in a court of law.
And I'm just pointing out, this is what some of the people here
to see what would happen next with his domestic abuse trial. So Kent Hovind initially received a guilty verdict in that trial, and we thought he might actually see the inside of a jail cell again, even for a short time. But afterwards, he appealed the verdict. And because of
I'm
he's standing at the door. And he said, "Oh, you're Kent Hovind." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm Aaron, Sandra's ex-husband." I said, "Well, I've been wanting to meet you."
And he totally blessed their union and said, "Oh, I love your DVDs, and I think it's a great idea."
Hi, my name is Sandra
Oh, I
Hovind,
can't hear
and
you.
I just wanted to give you an insight of me and my husband and the way we live.
So Sandra has 3 former husbands and 7 children by 2 of them. So both her and Kent are on their 4th marriage. On the 12th of September, 2021, Sandra and her children, they traveled to Lenox, Alabama.
All right, tell them who you are, where you're from.
I do want to be clear about what I'm saying. It's one thing to interpret the Bible one way or another. I get that. It's a different thing entirely to choose the translation of the Bible that best fits the thing you're trying to say in one instance, and then choose a different translation of the Bible to fit something else that you're trying to say in another instance. That is dishonesty about the content of the Bible, not about interpreting it. It's literally about what the words say. And he knows he does this, and he lies to people about doing this. He has specifically said that he doesn't do this. And then he's informed, look, you're picking you're cherry picking translations here. Then there's the fact that he also just makes up things that are not in the Bible. He pretends as though they are, and he says, well, the Bible says, and then he lies. So your point is valid. Yes. It's a document that common understanding says it's meant to be interpreted. It's not a literal thing, so on and so forth. That's fair, but I'm not saying that's what Kent Hovind does. He doesn't. He literally lies about the contents of the Bible. It is. I'm offended on behalf of Christians. It is straight up blasphemy what he does, and it's a dark thing. Speaking of,
Sandra Sawyer from Winter Haven, Florida, and I work for Landmark Baptist Church in Haines City, Florida.
And then in a later broadcast, Kent indicated that he was hiring Sandra as his scheduling secretary, indicating that she would work remotely from her home in Central Florida.
Sandra, you're secretary for scheduling stuff. I'll call you when I get out of here, if you're still awake.
And on the 15th of September, Sandra and Kent get married. They sign all the documents. So they don't have a wedding on this day. The actual wedding would be on Christmas Day of 2021 at Dinosaur Adventureland. And then on September 23rd, 2021, Kent makes his infamous video called The Future, where he brings Sandra on camera for the first time and kisses her while chastising Cindy.
We got married last week. Sandra, you want to come up and become world famous? Cindy?
Cindy is his ex-wife. This guy has spoken out against divorce generally, and this is, I think, his 4th wife.
Should have been yours. You blew it.
And October 1st, 2021, Kent says he's going to drive to pick up his new 10-year-old stepdaughter with Sandra. Kind of sounds like you're going to pick up a new car.
I'm going to be a dad again to a 10-year-old. I'm going to keep going to Orlando and pick up my new 10-year-old daughter. Does she know we're coming, Mom? Does she know we're coming for her?
Fair, Foxy. Also, I just wanted to clarify my own point, because as I was saying it, I wasn't quite sure that I was saying it correctly. And this guy gets under my skin.
She won't be surprised if you drive up and say, toss all your stuff in the bin. Okay, good.
But okay. On the 3rd of October, Sandra had been keeping her new marriage to Kent quiet to her extended friends and family. But on this date, she made a public Facebook post acknowledging it. And then this is when several people would add comments saying that she is in a common law marriage to Kent, much like Mary Toko was, which isn't considered legitimate in the eyes of the law. But of course, Sandra disputed this, and the
Seth
laws had
Claudio,
actually just
welcome.
changed.
Beginning at the end of
Thank
August,
you.
you'll no longer fill out an application for a marriage license like this. Instead, you and your fiance will sign an affidavit and file it in probate court. But under the new law that passed the legislature last week, probate judges no longer will have to sign a marriage document, perform a ceremony, or otherwise bless the union.
So according to this, it seems that under this new law that the marriage might be official, but I don't know. And then on the 11th of October, Steve Lynn, who was the former right-hand man of Kent Hovind, I don't think he's currently at DAL anymore.
Oh yeah. Steve's gone. He was another one that, as a whole, we saw was harming the cause of Christ, and it would be better for the ministry and for the cause of Christ if
How
he was
so?
no longer part of the ministry. I mean, but we're talking near $100,000 of stuff where he has made amends.
He has served with court papers for Cindy Lincoln for damages to her rental property when he was still living at DAL.
And with that, we're done our rewind portion, and we're caught up in the timeline to last year's video, Dinosaur Scandal Land 2021. How did Kent react to that?
Well, I know that he wasn't very happy about it. He uploaded a video that he was later taken down that was called
maybe not.
AJ and Paula Gia Get Desperate, where he tried to downplay most of the things that we said. And I believe he threatened to body slam me also.
I'm capable of body slamming probably you, AJ, if I'm not going to.
So the reaction wasn't great.
What was
Bear in
clear was
mind, the issue is he body slammed his wife.
Kent's conceit about personal attacks.
Ad hominem attack takes the form of overtly attacking somebody or more subtly casting doubt on their character or personal attributes in a way to discredit their argument. But thank you for using the ad hominem attack as a clear demonstration. You're desperate, aren't you?
This may come up again.
On October 18th is when Kent filed his appeal for the guilty verdict for domestic assault. At first, he requested a new trial, but
the motion for the new trial was denied today with no reason.
So instead, Kent has filed for an appeal of the guilty verdict. And we're still waiting to see when this appeal will get seen in court. So that still hasn't happened because there have been 5 murder cases in Lenox, Alabama. So that's been tying up the court. Okay, and then this is when things get interesting. So on November 9th, Kent Hovind gets a 1-week suspension from YouTube.
We didn't have a choice but to live stream to my account tonight because unfortunately, Dr. Hovind's account has been suspended for a week. And so it's quite a shame. It seems like YouTube just can't handle the criticism.
After making a video with vitamin expert Bill Sardi that's spreading misinformation about COVID-19 and vaccinations.
The stuff they're putting in with this vaccine, visible under UV light, they'll be able to watch UV cameras putting up all over big cities. They can watch people coming out of stores. Oh, this one hasn't been vaccinated. Police arrest that man.
Bill Sardi is somebody who he was Kent's sort of vitamin guy.
Now, Bill Sardi's one of our board members and smartest guy I know on nutrition, and say, Bill, Kent told me to call. I got this problem with my health. He'll say, oh, are you taking this?
Apparently
this?
not.
No. Well, why not? And say, Bill, can I buy him from you?
And we'll see what happens with Bill Sardi later because it's not good. So on this
is all not great. Let me just recap though the properly disturbing stuff. So he had on his staff somebody credibly accused of child molestation. Let's see if they discuss how Kent reacted to
Or back on a regular basis, and anybody who would massage him, he would take it.
It never crossed my mind that he would have
this college.
He worked at the church.
Well, they can read. Dinosaurs lived millions of years ago. That's the child abusers.
We're not going to go into the details. Even this news report does not all that much, but just this is Kent Hovind, and the scandals that crop up within the communities that run this scam, this lie to people about their fundamental beliefs to change their beliefs scam, are shockingly similar.
You're worried about somebody having pedophilia in his history 30 years ago. You're more concerned about a kid you haven't seen because his mama doesn't want to show him on camera. Those who teach evolution to children, they're the real pedophiles. They teach millions of years ago. That's the child abuse right there. Folks.
Doesn't that sound familiar? I'm gonna, so you guys can get the details of what's going on. I will let this thing play, but doesn't that sound familiar? Oh, let me just accuse the other side of this monstrous thing. That's how I'll distract. Baseless accusations.
Focus on that.
Now we can bring it a little further because it gets a little more disturbing. Now we're on to wife number 4. The church that she comes from is a bit problematic in and of itself. It's called Landmark Baptist College.
He worked at the church her family attended, Landmark Baptist Church in Batavia.
He worked in the nursery. He worked in the children's with the children, the teens, the teen group.
She's got 2 children of her own, a minor daughter. People are concerned for her because of the people that Kent Hovind has in his circle on a regular basis. We have stories from Mark Stoney, his daughter, going into the bedroom, coming out after massages.
He would have a sore back on a regular basis, and anybody who would massage him, he would take it.
It never crossed my mind that he would have a child, a minor child, let alone my own child, without my consent, without my knowledge, without my permission, join in on these therapeutic massages.
I don't know how old she was,
She was 5 and 6 at the time.
but I only saw that happen once that I can recall.
I'm like, wait a minute, Mackenzie, who told you you were the best massager in the world? Oh, Kent Hovind, when he would let me massage him while I was at school. I went through 6 months of therapy with my daughter after all this really hit the fan, and just, man, it's coming back. I'm with you. I got to step aside.
Did I tell you about?
I'm not going to put you guys through carrying the horror of all this on your souls. You know, now you know the kind of stuff we're talking about with this fucking guy. Isn't it funny? Ha 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 ha. Just hilarious. That the type of scandals we're talking about seem to crop up in these 2 communities. Being a little bit sarcastic there. Remember this? Part 52. Republican sexual predators, abusers, and enablers. It's a 52-part series and still ongoing from the Daily Cause. My point isn't even to talk about the sexual abuse, the diddling, the abuse of spouses. My point is to talk about what do these 2 groups have in common. The Kent Hovinds of the world and the MAGA movement. What they have in common is the scam they run. They take people's most fundamental beliefs. In one case, a belief in the Bible and in the divinity of Jesus Christ. In another, a belief in the U.S. Constitution. And they use a mix of audacity and predicted ignorance to manipulate people into allowing the con artist access to their money and a lifestyle which is utterly contradictory to the morals and values that they preach. Utterly contradictory. Kent Hovind keeps wanting to be left alone with people's kids. He wants people to give him money to fund his lifestyle. Donald Trump, as featured on the Jeffrey Epstein flight list, does the same scam. He lies about what the Constitution says. All Republicans, frankly, lie about what the Constitution says. They lie about what they're doing in government. It goes on and on and on. We have to be clear-eyed. I realize the irony. We have to be clear-eyed about the similarities here. These similarities will be studied by future generations. They'll just need to be, because we need to defend against this behavior. Because this weakness in humanity has been exposed to us now. The snake oil salesman who shows up and says, why, this tonic cures everything. It cures arthritis. It cures foul moods. It clears up your skin. It grows back your hair. It makes your fingernails more vibrant somehow. And then somebody chimes up from the crowd. Why, I tried it, and it did all of those things for me. I feel like a new man. And then they sell a bunch of bottles of the tonic. And then on the outskirts of town, the snake oil salesman pulls over on the side of the road. And out from the bushes next to the road comes the person from the crowd. And he gets in the car. And they drive off together because they were both in on it. We know how that scam works, because that was a common scam back in the day. This scam, this lying about people's fundamental beliefs by having the audacity to lie about words that are written down and you could go check yourself, needs to be studied as well. And one element of it is the sure knowledge, is the absolute certainty that the people who are listening will, by and large, not bother to check. They want the person who is lying to them to be right, so they don't check to make sure that they are. That also means that fundamental to the scam working is to make a villain out of people that the targets of the scam want to hate. I want to hate gay people. This person has promised me that my Bible says I'm allowed to hate gay people, that it's good to be cruel to gay people. And so I will choose to believe what they're saying about the Bible. And they're going to add in more things that they say the Bible says. I won't check those either, because that would mean I would have to see whether or not this person is lying to me. And if it turns out they're lying, then I've lost my excuse to hate gay people that they gave me. Doesn't have to be gay people. Could be black folks. Could be poor folks. Could be my neighbor. Palestinians. Anybody. That's how the scam works. They give you a little bit of what you want, so long as you don't question them. And so long as you're not questioning them, well, they can tell you anything at all about the document you say matters so much to you. Be on the lookout. Tao and Jack, good to see you. Trumpo the loser clown as co-defendant with Epstein. The rape of a, I shouldn't have said that word, child, he says. Yes, I agree. Anti-corporatist, I think that part of it is also, after they get away with the cons for so long, they start to think they can get away with anything. I think this is dead on, yes. Underage massages? Why not? I already took their parents for everything they're worth. Yeah. Yeah, they get cocky. That for sure happens. I'm sure psychologically, I don't know, I don't understand this, but I'm sure psychologically, years from now, we'll find the link as to why they even have a desire to get away with such a thing. Why? Possibly part of it is just that I'm speculating, but possibly part of it is just the thrill of doing evil. Like, I truly think they get a thrill, like the sort of person who tells a lie on a grand scale like that, like goes to a crowd of people that read the Bible and then lies to them about what's in the Bible. I don't think you do that unless you enjoy the challenge of mocking someone's beliefs to their face and getting them to applaud you for it. I think the sort of person that does that is a special kind of sadist. And I think it carries over, like the thrill of like being a gross child diddler, basically. I think part of it for them must be, I'm only speculating because I can't wrap my head around these folks. Must be that they're like, yeah, and I did this foul thing and nobody said anything either. I think they're constantly proving to themselves. This is my, and truly this is conspiracy theory. I there's no way even to have evidence for this, but I think that they are constantly reassuring themselves that God isn't real because God would have stopped me. I think that's what they're saying. I think at a certain point, they know they've done so much evil. They know they've blasphemed so much. They know they've done so much harm to the world that if there were a God, they must be afraid. So they must constantly do more, do worse, so they can prove to themselves, oh, there can't be a God. There isn't, right? There isn't. I think that's what they're doing. I get the same anger for these people as I do when I see white people embarrassing me. When I see like a Klansman, I get embarrassed because we look alike. And deep down, I think these folks are atheists, and so am I. But we're not the same. I don't make mock of people's religion. In fact, I have a deep respect for people with sincerely held religious beliefs, whatever they are. These people are the opposite. Sinister motives. Whatever they are sinister. That's true. Groove Dragon, only love will cure the unlovable. What a fucked up situation. Yeah. Ken Ham is not as bad as Kent Hovind in terms of the crimes that we're aware of that he's done and assisted in, but he's not a good person either, and he runs the very same scam. Yeah. Anti-corporatist, and with that, Bo, Pinkerbell, well put. Pinkerbell nicely ties up the question of what did the church and the Republican Party have in common? Although I do want to be clear, I have my own criticisms of various churches, but Kent Hovind is not. He's not. These are spin-offs from religious communities, but they are not themselves churches, generally speaking. Generally speaking. There are church organizations which are like this. Case in point, the Faith Militant, which recently suffered a massive collapse. But yeah, they in fact, this is an important distinction because the nature of his scam is to target sincere believing Christians who are biblical literalists, or at the very least want to have Bible as part of their children's education. And then he tells them lies about what the Bible does say, while assuring them that the Bible says that the earth is 10,000 years old and, humans live next to dinosaurs and so on and so forth. Ask the tax man about that, Jake. Fair point. Fair point. I'm sure he gets a tax exemption, yada, yada, yada. Terrible. Donald James X. But, however, in Jehovah's Witnesses. They actually donate, and that money from the community actually goes into the community. Nobody is blatantly pocketing the money for greed. Yes and no. The one caveat I want to say with Jehovah's Witnesses is they go out of their way to ensure that the charity they give only goes to Jehovah's Witnesses. So if they're doing a charity for like relief in New Orleans after the floods, they say, find a Jehovah's Witness hall in New Orleans and give the money to that. So there's some degree of money laundering happening. But I will say they also do outreach. So they'll use the charity, instead of giving it to Jehovah's Witnesses, they'll give it only to people who are willing to hear the pitch. And that's a little better. But I do want to make that point. They have a history of doing that. Money laundering machines. Yeah, that is essentially what it is. And the Republican Party has become the same. They've been taken over by these people. Trump is much closer to Kent Hovind than he is to, say, Ronald Reagan. Donald James, JW donations are not like regular big church donations. JW donations go back into the community, back into the Jehovah's Witness community. Yes. Yes. I'm JW, Jake. I know. Are you saying, they go they go back to the Jehovah's Witness community? By the way, that's another one where I may well be wrong. If I'm mixing up JWs and Mormons, that wouldn't be the first time it happened. But my understanding is, and I remember that you're Jehovah's Witness, but I'm just trying to clarify for folks that are less familiar. My understanding is that they prioritize, they're not doing community outreach. Like when they get donations, they go to Jehovah's Witnesses. Yes. Yeah, there we go. Into their community, not the community in general. Yeah. And by the way, I do also want to say I kind of get it. From their perspective, everybody else is kind of a doomed soul anyway. So, like, yeah. Oh, gosh. Tom Trask. How is that different from a club? Donald James X. Why does it deserve tax exemption? It's within the current tax. Oh my God! Within the current tax code, it is a church. They are doing church things. We say that churches don't have to be taxed. It's a tough call. I don't think they should, or rather, I do think they should be, but I understand why they're not, and it's not high. Let me put it like this: it's not high on my list of priorities. Mostly, what I want is some sort of a. I don't even think you can have the government do this, but I want some sort of like an investigator who goes after people who are frankly lying about their belief in a certain religion. Like that member of the standby anti-corporatist. Actually, apparently the Mormons are holding all of their wealth and not even using it to help out the flock. Yikes. That's brutal. Who is that guy? Tony all right, hold up. 1 second. Tony something. Tony Morris was caught like just buying. Here we go. I don't know who this guy is, but he's explaining what's going on. Bottlegate.
I never thought I would need to make.
Never mind. I do know who this guy is. He's another ex-JW. I would like to have a conversation with Jehovah's Witnesses at some point about the religion itself, given the fact that I am bordering on an apostate with my criticism of the Watchtower, etc. Probably won't want to, but the point is, people like this, not the guy on screen, but who he's going to talk about, Tony Morris, I think deserve better scrutiny as a society from all of us if we truly do consider ourselves to be good neighbors to Christians. Because right now, let me toss out my thesis before we show the video. Right now, there's a lot of, frankly, Christian bullying of non-Christians. Now, we know that. That's not a shock. But there is also a problem with non-Christians allowing Christians to be the victims of con artists. It's not as bad of a problem, frankly. It's not as bad as a problem as, say, how non-black people allow society to go on in the same way that it is while black people suffer from police brutality. It's not as bad as a problem. Let me just be clear. But it is still a problem. And it is still the same societal problem. It's still one group who is not the victim of something, allowing another group who is the victim of something to go on getting victimized. And I think we tend not to view Christians as needing much help because they are the dominant group in the U.S. But they're also the most numerous group in the U.S., which means they are frequently victimized. If you're trying to hustle a group and you don't give a fuck about who they are or what they believe, you're just trying to get paid. Why wouldn't you choose the most common group? So when these people say, these people, I mean Christians, when they say we're being victimized and people don't care, people must hate us, it's very easy for them to then say, it's the gays, it's the liberals, it's the this, it's the that. But I think something that might help us come to an understanding is if we did give a shit when they are being victimized. Case in point, when they're church leaders, or rather, I guess you might even say people pretending to be church leaders, when in fact they just got in that position of power so they could fleece their flock. When their church leaders take advantage of them. It might not seem like a big deal to you, but one of the things Jehovah's Witnesses say you can't do is drink booze. Tony Morris, one of the leaders of the religion, he's no longer anymore. He was kicked out, that's my understanding, was caught buying a bunch of booze. Here's an ex-JW talking about it.
But we need to talk about Tony Morris again, I'm afraid, because if you're a Jehovah's Witness watching this, you'll know that finding a governing body and actually being able to interact with them personally is almost impossible. In all of my years of doing this channel, I've managed it once. And we were thinking, if we find some pants that are maybe too tight or some yoga pants, should we get in touch with you and let you know?
No. Talk to the branch committee.
The branch committee.
And don't let me see. Don't let me see you guys wearing them.
Well, and I was.
Are you serious? You're pulling my leg.
Well, what if we find your pants and your pants are a bit too tight? Should we?
Then you must have shrunk them.
So that was a clip from my prank call with Tony Morris. I managed to get hold of his number when they were still in Brooklyn, and knowing that I wouldn't be able to have a serious conversation without him hanging up, I just thought I'd rib him a little bit. But it's very difficult to have that sort of conversation with a governing body member, whether you're an apostate like me or not, especially now they're in Warwick. It's even harder to have a chance encounter with someone who claims to be part of God's channel with 8.5 million Jehovah's Witnesses. It's almost impossible. So you can imagine my surprise when yesterday I had an email from someone saying, you will never guess who I ran into at my local liquor store. and I managed to document it. So I needed to find out more. An email exchange ensued. I managed to get the video footage on condition that I disguise the man's voice. So without further ado, here it is.
I see you're a fan of Scotch. Do you know anything about Irish whiskey?
Yeah, I'm not a lot. My wife likes it.
Yeah.
Jameson's always
Yeah.
Popular.
I usually get.
Good for a long time.
Yeah.
That's the
All right.
number of times. So
That guy, in case you're not familiar, is Tony Morris. That guy was on the governing council. He is not only on the governing council, but he was actually a bit of a rogue. He went out and he did, let me just jump up here. Some of the wildest stuff that he convinced the folks to do, like outlawing tight pants, he just did on his own. He just said, like, we're let's see if I can get this little, yeah, I'll do it in a second. He just said, no more of that. And he didn't ask the rest of the governing council. He just went out and said, the religion's changing. Here's what we're doing. This guy, the most conservative member, of course, this guy at the liquor store buying scotch.
Well, thank you.
Scottish and Irish. So. A lot of the Irish ones will say,
yeah,
you got to try our stuff. You know?
Yeah. I know I've got the green spot. That's very nice.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'll just go with another bottle of JMO.
You can't go wrong with it. My wife really likes that.
Hey, have a good one.
Yep.
Kind of a lot.
Oneself in an institution of learning. If your hands are not clean because you've been out warning, then they have blood on them.
I just realized, I think, where the match joke came from earlier. Someone in the comments was saying, do you need a match? Were you referencing Tony Morris going, it'll be gone like this? Do let me know if that's what the reference was, because impressive poll if that was the case.
And you're going to lose your life. So this is it. At this point, we're confident to share with you Russia and its allies are the king of the north. Jehovah blesses obedience. This is a theocracy ruled by God, not a collection of man-made decisions. This is governed from heaven.
And yet, for all that arrogance and judgmentalism and pomposity, wouldn't you know, our boy Tony is just a normal guy after all, who you could argue, and I've repeatedly argued, is entirely unworthy of the attention and adoration that's lavished on him. Here is a guy who can get caught out wandering around a booze store.
My point being, the greater point being, I do think as a society, as a global society, what the hell, we should look out for the well-being of our neighbors, including brace yourselves for the Christians. When we see con artists like this, understand the hurt they're doing to the out groups. Whoever those out groups are, the hurt that they're doing, that's not the goal. That's the toxic byproduct of their goal. Their goal is to scam their own followers. We should address it as it is. We should point to it for what it is, and we should address the people that are being conned less like they are villains and more like they are victims, because that is the reality. Now, there are victims who are being turned against the out group, but they are victims. That realization and the fact that, oh, by the way, they rely on us bickering with each other, that realization is part of what is making me wish like crazy I could communicate with some of these MAGA folks, because I see the same scam happening. Once again, outgroups are selected, and they are pitched as a danger to the flock. And lies are told about them that please the flock to hear. And those lies are told so that the flock knows, don't look too closely at the facts that we're presenting to you. Because if you look too closely at those, you might find out that we're lying about the people who you want us to be encouraging you to hate. And the end result is what? How much have people? I don't even need to make up a number here. I can actually bring you the actual numbers. How much have Republicans raised off of Trump's raised for Trump's campaign? This is on June 21st. Former President Donald Trump's campaign and the Republican National Committee say they raised $141 million. This is just what they say they raised for the campaign. $141 million. Does that go into campaigning right now? No, it's going to paying for Trump's bills. How much did Steve Bannon raise for the Build the Wall? Bannon charged in New York with laundering money raised to build border wall. Give me a number. Oh, I wish it would tell me how much. Rain Thursday, prosecutors say. Prosecutors say that while Bannon promised donors all the money they gave would go to building the wall, he was involved in funneling hundreds of thousands of dollars to two other people involved in the scheme. The indictment didn't identify those people by name, but the details match those of Brian Kolfage and Andrew Badolato, who pleaded guilty to federal charges in April. Let me just make sure. Legend donors gave money to build a wall. Yeah. So at a minimum, hundreds of thousands of dollars. At a minimum. God damn. Kolfage and Bondolato were also ordered to pay $25 million in restitution to the victims. That is the scam they're pulling. That's the point. Part of this scam requires that we be in conflict with their victims because we are the people who can help their victims. Let's all make an effort to be on the lookout for the real bad guys. If somebody's making money off of a lie, that's who we got to go after. Steve Bannon, Donald Trump, Kent Hovind, Ken Ham. Fill in the blank with these villains. I'm sorry, but Tony Morris. That's not even I'm sorry anymore. This guy was kicked out of the governing council. He's recognized by other people who I suspect are doing the same scam as doing it too much. These are the people to be on the lookout. Crazy that there are starving people in this country. Yeah. Yeah. There's people starving to death, and yet we can raise, what, 25 million to build a wall to insult our neighbor? Mars Falcon. Bannon literally defrauded Trumpanzees. Those people he ripped off follow him still. Makes no reasonable sense unless they are cool with the abuse, so long as their bigoted community sticks together. Well, that's the point. The bigotry. The bigotry is put in there intentionally so that you and I will not reach out a hand in friendship. Now, I know that hand's been slapped away again and again and again. But if you feel vengeance, if you feel desire for vengeance, if you feel a righteous anger in your heart, understand that the thing you can do that will hurt Bannon the most, that will hurt the people who deserve to be hurt, is to keep reaching that hand out. I don't care how bloody and swollen it gets. I don't care how many times it gets slapped. You keep reaching that hand out and tell the truth. Tell the uncomfortable truth. Do it again and again. And eventually, we will pull enough people out of that muck, out of that cesspool, that it can no longer sustain itself. We've tried. We have tried the stick with the victims. I say carrot time. Doesn't mean we accept cruel behavior. Doesn't mean we accept bigotry from these folks. No. We insist politely that they get civilized like the rest of us. But understand that the villains here are a very narrow group of unbelievable scumbags. And the more we go after folks who are their victims, the less I notice we actually go after the perpetrators, the people who are making life worse on planet Earth for every one of us. This is coming from a guy who has publicly stated and will state right here, if I see a Confederate hat on your head in public, it is on site. But we have the benefit, of this lovely internet. Let's use it. Let's be diplomats so that we don't have to be soldiers. Got something I'd like to recommend for you. On a related note. Right now, there's been a lot of people who have been convinced that it's okay to let Palestinian families starve to death. Let's undo that. With the same kind of passion that they harvested money for building the wall, let's instead do some good. Let's show the world that there is generosity amongst kind people as well.
Today we are gonna give the people and the children and the needy family a dinner meal to eat. And we're gonna draw the smile in the lips of the children. So let's go with us. And thanks for Muhammad and his brother Fadi Dagma.
الخير وما أجمل أن نحيا فنعبر عنه وننشر ما نتمنى ليلامس روحا ما يأست من قلته
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad. I am a proud Palestinian from Gaza, says the owner of this GoFundMe. Currently living in Belgium. In Gaza, my family owned and operated a restaurant called Bab al-Hara on the beautiful coast of Khan Yunis. We served comfort food to joyful beachgoers in cabanas as the waves rolled. It was our joy and our life. In 2014, our restaurant was bombed, and many people were killed during occupation raids. Our family was subject to catastrophic loss, and my cousin Hedmir was killed. Like many Palestinians, we lost our livelihood and became homeless. We struggled to get by for nearly a decade. Since October 2023, as families sought shelter and safety, we again found purpose in feeding people in the camps. We were able to do so thanks to resources provided by generous international donors like you. We may have lost our home and our restaurant, but not our know-how and our will to feed others. My mother devised makeshift pastry recipes with what ingredients my father could find, and our family began our project of realizing home through food. We consider ourselves lucky to have found purpose in helping others. Thanks to the generosity of strangers, my family has been able to use our talents to cook hundreds, if not thousands, of meals for displaced Palestinians in Gaza. We plan to keep doing so, but we need your help. So, there's folks starving. We can fix that. You want to know what you can do? If you're concerned about the plight of Palestinians, there's something right there. The link is right here. And if you're watching later, it'll be in the description. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. Thank you for joining me tonight. And on Wednesday, I want to remind you, your old pal Jake has an unfair amount of advantages in life because we are interviewing Benjamin Dixon. This is Donald James X.